All I hear is talking, I don't sweat that. If they don't trust me either, I respect that. If she be down the ride, oh, I bet that. Ooh.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is JH. How y'all doing, Postal family? Is everybody good? Is everybody cool? Everybody clean? Are you crisp? Are you feeling irie today? I think I might be. Not sure yet. Still trying to get over this little cold I got going on there. Little cold thing. Listen, I was reading an article, because that's kind of what I do, especially when I'm sick. And if you want to look it up, it's in the Federal News Network. Mr. DeJoy, that guy. Seems like some good news. Seems like good news. There's a couple parts to this. But if you'll stick around, I'll read it to you. And you tell me what your opinion is. All right. He says that we're going to need 300,000 employees. I make this up. That's what he said. 300,000 hires needed to keep the current headcount. To keep its current workforce headcount, DeJoy said over the next 10 years, USPS may need to hire about 300,000 new employees. But the overall size of the future of the USPS workforce, he added, is subject to change. He's always got something. I think the workforce could be about the same, only with more volume and running with greater yields. That is not something I'm worried about trying to aggressively cut. Number one, it's not the commitment that the organization makes to its workforce. Number two, these are valuable people trained that know what they're doing and are valuable to us. This guy's funny. What we need to do is inspire them. You know how you inspire the employees you got? Yeah, hopefully the union goes to the table and tell you what we need. Hopefully. USPS currently has about 630,000 total employees, counting both full-time and part-time employees. DeJoy added that it's uneventful that the USPS stands at its current total head count, even though the agency has recently had about 660,000 total employees. The size of the USPS workforce, DeJoy ultimately comes down to how successful a 10-year plan proves in the growing agency business. You keep calling this a business. Do we get 700,000 people instead of 600,000 people? It's not out of the question. In order to be committed to your employees, you have to be successful. This is where it kicks in. The agency loses about 40,000 employees a year to attrition, meaning that they got too old, they had to leave, they had to retire. Attrition, natural attrition. This includes retirements and employees leaving to find work elsewhere. USPS is trying to rein in turnover amongst its pre-career workforce. But even in a best case scenario, DeJoy estimated that pre-career turnover will still hover around 20%. It's just hard work. You don't get to go to boot camp to figure it out. If you want to come here, you've got to go get it in one place, he said. Over the past 2 years, USPS has converted 140,000 people from pre-career to career status with better wages and benefits. I don't know about better wages. If I make $20 an hour and I'm working 40 hours a week pre-career, but then I become PTF and they put me down, you know, I'm up to $25 an hour, but I'm only working 20 hours a week. Not really making that much more money, am I? Yeah, kind of lose money there. Sheesh. The agency also signed agreements with postal unions guaranteeing career status to new hires within 2 years on the job. So we already know that. If you got 2 years in, you're automatically converted to career, which is good. He talks some more garbage. USPS stated earlier this year that its network modernization plans won't result in layoffs or post office closures. Most recently, the American Postal Workers Union recently signed a memo with USPS promising the ongoing network changes won't lead to reduction in retail operations. But DeJoy said USPS is still weighing its options for what to do with the 31,000 retail centers across the country. So here's another thing right there where he says it won't result in layoffs. It sounds good when you say, oh, no, you won't get cut. You'll still have a job. Okay, Jay, you'll still have a job. You'll still be a truck driver. But unfortunately, instead of, you driving 3 miles to work, you're going to have to drive 45 miles to the next place to go to work. Or carrier A, instead of you driving, 10 minutes to work, you're going to have to drive an hour to work. You'll still have a job. So it's kind of, you gave part of the answer, but not all of the answer. Because what's going to happen if I can't afford to drive back and forth because cost of gas went up, or just the distance alone is just not worth the headache for me to go. I'm already losing time at work. If I spend 10 hours of work a day and I have to drive an hour each way, that's 12 hours out of my day that I'm spending on work-related issues, right? So do I really want to spend 12 hours out of my day at work, or just maybe 10 and a half because I got 15 minutes to work, 15 minutes back? That's kind of where people will start saying, you know what, screw this, I'm finding another job elsewhere. This is where I implore anybody that has energy to go speak to your union people. Get as many people together to talk to your union reps. Please, please, please. You guys saw my other video where I just talked about the Teamsters and how those guys were union. Think about it. What's the first 3 letters of union? Uni, right? Unified. Uni. 1. This post office got 4 different unions, everybody doing their own thing. It doesn't really make much sense. That's why they divide and conquer, right? Doesn't make sense. So I just implore you guys to try to get everybody on the same page if you have a voice, and try to get your unions to fight what it is we need, what it is you want, and come to an agreement. I mean, you may not agree with what your coworker wants. Oh, we need better, blah, blah, blah. You know what? We need blah, blah, blah. Not everybody's going to agree, but you have to come to some form of terms that make sense for everybody and not make it selfish. The Teamsters, okay, there are people there that went from $20 an hour to $25 an hour. Of course they wanted 30, but they accepted 25 because, hey, that's what a majority of the people needed. A living wage. We would all love to be at $30 an hour or more, but we have to come to some form of, you know who gets screwed in the whole end of this, and you probably heard Miss K say this a dozen times, is the mail handlers. Because they're not even on the same playing field as us. And it seemed like they're getting dumped with a little bit more work. Some of the work's getting taken away from them. Those are the ones that are going to end up having to move. Actually, a lot of people, think about that. The clerk's going to end up having to move. Mail handler's going to have to move. Not going to lose jobs, but they're going to have to move. And is it worth it? If you're making $22 an hour, $23 an hour, but now you got to drive, 40 miles. Is it even worth it? So here's the thing, please, anybody start ASAP, because they are starting to do the negotiations for the next contract now. And if you don't like what the next contract ends up being, it's nobody else's fault except for our own. I touch a few people, and if you can touch a few people and you can touch a few people, then you guys will cover as many people as necessary. Say, hey, you know what? I'm gonna spend an hour at the meeting tonight. I'm gonna get on this Zoom. I'm gonna see what they talking about. And instead of there being 15 people at the union meeting on a Zoom, now there's 50 people. They have to listen, right? Make it work. Make it work. This man said he's gonna create 300,000 jobs in 10 years. Is it gonna be worth it in 10 years? I'm optimistic. I'm not pessimistic. I'm optimistic. But at the same time, we have to be realistic. The only way this is going to change is if you guys put your best foot forward. All right. This is JH with a little more serious message for you. This looks good on paper, but is it going to be really good unless we do something about it? This is JH. We out.
Unexpected expenses stressing you out? Get the money you need now with Loans for Feds, a program designed specifically for federal employees. Bad credit is not a problem. Application is fast and easy with same-day approvals. Apply now.